Welcome to the Fatherless Cheat Sheet. I'm Andrew, your host. A quick thank you to those who have been listening, family, friends, apparently people in Canada and the UK. I guess I look like, I don't know what the hell I look like to someone in the UK or Canada. I guess I look sort of like a, Sopranos adjacent, whatever, with a decent vocabulary. But thanks for everybody for listening. A friend of mine said something funny recently. He said, he asked me, actually it was a question. He said, are you sitting on your hands when you're doing the show? And that's pretty funny. If you know me, if you see me in person, I am fairly animated, not as bad as one of those things that are set up in front of the car dealerships and stuff like that, but I am fairly animated. So no, I don't sit on my hands, but I do see what I do. I sit here and it's like my jump seat. I strap in, I get ready and I go, and hopefully bring you a couple smiles along the way. But shout out, Dan. That was pretty funny. And also, I had a little bit of an inquiry about the nose scratching going on the last couple episodes. Shout out, Lana. She was concerned for my health and well-being, father of her grandchildren. I get it. The problem with this schnoz is that you have to scratch it with the garden rake. And to mitigate it, I looked into the Novage nasal cleaning, whatever, but they don't sell those at Men's Big and Talls. So I just took myself to a car wash and I just let it happen. Anyway, here we are. Appreciate everybody listening so far. I have a really great episode today. I'm always going to say that, but this is really great. Dr. Lauren DePinto is on, an expert in her field, a psychotherapist, a counselor, just an all-around a really talented, smart person who distills her knowledge in a way that makes it really accessible. She just has a real way about her. I think you'll see that as well. I think her voice brought a great angle to our conversations around fatherlessness and how to sort of mitigate that a little bit. How do you mitigate fatherlessness? I don't know, but she talked a little bit about that and a reoccurring theme of everybody leaning in and sort of having that, circling the wagons is really important, building that community around the fatherless and supporting single moms and things like that. So it was a great conversation. I know I had a doctor on, Dr. Farshad. I'm getting great feedback on him. He's very popular episode. He had a lot of great knowledge. But I'm not gonna have a doctor on every week. How many doctors do I know? Next week, I got a guy who's going to tell us about the acceptable amount of ass crack while you're doing DIY. He's from the Plumbers Union. All right. So we'll do that too. But while I can have access to really smart people, I'm going to try to have them on. And she was really great. She was really great. And I thought it added so much to the show. What fills that vacuum of fatherlessness? What fills the vacuum of the fatherless? Hopefully it's family, it's friends, and it's well-intentioned people. But oftentimes it's opportunists, it's bad actors. You never know. I mean, there's gang violence. I grew up in Brooklyn. Now, I'm not saying I was going to get recruited by a gang. I had a better shot of getting recruited to be the assistant deli slicer at a Italian pork store. But there are situations where kids, they don't have the father at home and they get recruited to a gang or whatever the thing is, or just not even a gang. It doesn't have to be an organized thing. They act out. They do stupid shit because mom is busy doing her thing, working, trying to support a household. And there's no one there to give her the help she needs and to put their damn foot in the kid's ass and say, hey, no, that's not going to happen. I read something recently that gentle parenting is sort of falling by the wayside. I don't know. I never judge anybody's parenting strategy. I think everybody's trying to do the same thing in a different way. So if you feel like that gentle, look, you have to be both. You have to be both. Sometimes when you're yelling all the time, which I don't do, it doesn't hold any weight. And sometimes when you're gentle all the time, you can't get anything done either. So I think there's great nuances in parenting. But again, I harp on this all the time. The single parent of it all, it's tough because you're trying to make everything else happen in that moment and in that time. Anyway, Dr. Lauren was great. I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. Dr. Lauren DePinto. She's a psychotherapist in a private practice and a clinical consultant. Was the district coordinator of school-based mental health services for Ridgewood Public Schools in Ridgewood, New Jersey. She was selected as a member of the review committee and contributing author of Chapter 6, Frameworks for Risk Response and Assessment in the recently published New Jersey Comprehensive School-Based Mental Health Guide. Dr. DePinto earned her doctorate in clinical social work from the University of Pennsylvania School for Public Policy and Practice, a Master of Science in Social Work from Columbia University, and Bachelor of Science in Social Work and Sociology from Seton Hall University. With nearly 25 years of clinical social work experience, she specializes in supporting the social, emotional, psychological, and educational needs of children, adolescents, and families through integrated, evidence-based mental health services in education. Basically, she's smarter than me. She's probably smarter than a lot of you, and she's just a hell of a person. And she was great. She was great. And hopefully she'll come back to the show, because I think we kind of just scratched the surface. We're starting at the start with all this stuff. And I think she has a lot of value to add to my very humble show. So thanks for listening. Enjoy the show. And it's the Fatherless Cheat Sheet. Check it out. All right. Okay, welcome, Dr. Lauren DePinto. Hi, how are you?
Hello, how are you? I'm doing well.
I'm doing great. I'm doing great because you just managed, without saying 3 words, to give this podcast of mine immediate legitimacy and credibility. Thank you for doing that.
It is my pleasure.
Dr. DePinto, Lauren as I know her, is a wonderful combination of extremely, extremely technically savvy, smart, highly educated, but also completely rational and accessible as a human being. And I think that that's part of the reason I wanted you to come on, was your expertise, but being able to distill that in the time that we have, but also to an audience that just wants to hear sort of high level or bare bones of it all. And I just wanted to hear your take on some of the stuff we talk about. So thanks for coming.
I'm delighted to be here. I'm super excited. This is really wonderful.
Good. Okay. And before we get started, I just want to tell a very quick story about your sort of, now you're directly connected to the show. Sorry to break the news to you, but your sort of indirect relation to the show.
Mm-hmm.
We had a conversation, a really memorable conversation for my sake, a couple of months ago, maybe 2-3 months ago. And I asked you, I was sort of telling you about just sort of getting the boat in the water for this show. And I had some trepidations and some discomfort in putting myself out there like this. I've always been out there, but as a writer, no one knows who the hell the writer is.
Right.
As an actor, I'm in a cop's outfit that is just some chooch and a fake police uniform or, a suit as a lawyer, whatever. So they don't really know who I am. But here I'm sort of brass tacks in it, bare bones in it,
Yeah.
and laying it out there for whomever to say that I look like, the love child of Bert and Ernie, or whatever they're going to say in the comment section. But you said something to me that was so memorable. When I told you of my trepidation and discomfort in it, you said without hesitation and very Zen-like, you might as well have been levitating off of the floor. You said, well, I said I was uncomfortable with it. And you said, well, that's probably the thing that you should be doing then.
Wow. I'm so overwhelmed and humbled by the fact that, that experience happened. And I'm super glad that you took my advice.
Yeah. I'm going to put the copay in the mail because I genuinely appreciate that, because I'm very, very blessed and grateful to be surrounded by an extremely supportive team. My family, my wife, obviously number one, and my mom, and whatever. I could go down the list. Even my daughters, they'll champ me up every day. But when you meet somebody like you, who is not only a really great professional, but is a friend, and you give that sort of advice, I don't take that lightly. And you also took the time with me for that conversation,
Mm-hmm.
which I really appreciated. So thank you.
You're very welcome, and I appreciate you bringing it up, but it was really genuine,
Yeah.
right? Like, I care about people, like, obviously,
Yeah.
but more than that, I think every conversation matters, every question matters, and, like, when you're really listening to someone, you really wanna connect with them and have a relationship, you hear something and you share what you want to, and I really that
Sure.
advice was genuine because I also believed it was what you're destined to do because you have such a magnetic way about you and a warmth and I think when you're genuine and you're
Yeah.
honest, that really is at the that's the linchpin of the healthy relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, I would tend to agree. I just think that, yeah, authenticity is sort of a North Star. I think that word gets overused now, but maybe it gets overused because it's the truth. And that's okay sometimes as well.
Mhm.
But all right. Well, enough about me. I want to talk a little bit about, and your your intro. I made your intro without you here.
Mm.
I do that usually anyway. I do a little bit of an opener, and then I intro the guest I have. Um, but I think that it's better that you weren't there for the intro because you probably would have blushed a little bit because I just think that your background, what you've done, is extremely impressive, and let's talk about that a little bit. Um, 25 years clinical social work, children and families, pretty amazing background, and couldn't be more of a tie-in to our show, The
Mhm.
Fatherless Cheat Sheet. So let's talk about that a little bit. Is there, just to get right into it, is there a pattern that you've seen around kids of sort of any age, but let's start sort of youngish, even teenage years, when there isn't a father in the home?
Can you be a little more specific? When you say
Sorry, you're right. In the child, is there a behavioral pattern in the child? I don't want to paint with a broad brush, but is it sort of an individual thing with each child, how they act, or is there sort
Mhm.
of a couple of things that you can kind of see? Oh, well, maybe there just isn't a father present in the home.
Well, as I hear that question, and if there's any, pause, it's because I wanna think really
Mm,
a little more deeply about my answer. And I think that's an excellent question. Where my head goes is not answering it directly, but I think it's important to note, right, that it's a huge life experience for a child
mm,
during developmental years that really matter in terms of brain formation, identity formation, understanding where they place in their world, right?
right.
Taking risks. And so I think no matter what, at the end of the day, it's important to know that it matters.
Mm,
How it manifests is different
right.
for each child and family, depending on a number of different factors. But at the end of the day, it's worthy of a discussion. It's worthy to understand more about, and it matters.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Right. Yeah, right, because it's a lot of the conversations I've had so far in the show, a lot of times it goes back to, well, if the father isn't there, you have everybody else has to circle the wagons, and if you have that support system, you can mitigate that a bit, if that makes sense, if I'm hearing you correctly. So it's
Yeah.
circumstantial in that sense, but it is impactful, it just happens in different ways.
Right, and I think it's about context,
Yeah, sure, sure.
right? What's the how? What's the
Mhm.
individualized situation, the family
Right.
situation? There are always different variables, I think, that contribute to a number of things. I think the biggest place for us to focus on, or for this question, for me anyway, is like, okay, what do you need to learn
Mhm.
about the situation, about the circumstances?
Sure, sure. Yeah. Eh, you said something interesting about, identity,
Hmm,
the formation of an identity, and for me personally, it took a very long time to figure that stuff out, as it does any person,
sure.
any young person. But when you're sort of assigning, I'm gonna pull from here, and, I, be honest, candidly, I acted like Vince Vaughn for about 2.5 years, and I just try to pass myself off as him, but that was Like, who am I? If I'm gonna act like anybody, maybe it's Vince Vaughn. That works, right? But you have to look for different. You're looking at certainly for boys without
Mhm.
fathers, females without fathers have a sort of a different set of obstacles at times. But uh, how does that manifest in identity and things? How does that prohibit that from happening, or slow it down, that
Yeah, no,
process?
that's an excellent question. I feel like there's so many different avenues to go down with that, because it's so complicated.
Yeah.
And I know this is obviously the Fatherless podcast, and this is
Hmm.
really about your experience, right? And I think
Right.
boys and girls, uh, children in general,
Sure.
right, certainly are impacted. But for the sake of this conversation right now and this question, I think, there's so much impact,
Hmm.
right, in terms of the influences and
Yeah.
kind of knowing who you are and having someone to identify with, and that really play into how you meet the world around you and how you meet
Yeah.
risk and how you meet, you know, um, everyone in the world. Who are you in school? Who are you,
Hmm.
as a friend? Like, growing up's real messy.
Oh yeah.
Growing up is not it's not fun by design, right? And I say that with like, I'm glad I'm out, I'm glad I'm an adult now. I made it out.
Done. We're done. We're
Right,
good.
we're
Yeah.
done. No, but I say that to families and students all the time, because I think young people aren't given enough credit for how hard it is to grow
Hmm.
up and how hard it is to make sense of yourself in a world, especially now, right,
Yeah.
that is kinda like telling you one thing, and you have
Right.
to figure out where you fall, and without the stewardship or connection perhaps of a caregiver, a father
Hmm.
figure to help you with that.
Yeah.
This is not to say it precludes anyone who doesn't, this isn't about, that. I think it's about your
Sure.
attachment figure. It's about
Yeah.
you're a person who really is of such significance
Hmm.
in your development of self, your development of values, as it would be your mom, but in this
Hmm.
case, like, you know, not having that guidance or that relationship, whatever it is, right? That
Yeah.
boundary to kind of meet, can cause a lot of confusion,
Sure.
and, it kinda creates that storm sometimes inside. Not all the time, but, like, I'm picking up on your experience, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Does
Oh,
that answer the
I'm
yeah.
storming.
There's
Yes,
so
I'm great.
so many avenues
I'm
to go
st
down.
Oh, Lauren, I'm a hurricane. I mean, it happens. It happens every, right around hurricane season every year. I
Of
stew
course.
up. I drink 2 bottles of whiskey and I just walk down the street in my boxer briefs, and it's a problem. The cops come.
We
No, that
definitely
doesn't.
wanna try to find a different way
A
to
different,
express
yes, and
this.
that's what we're talking. I that only happened one time back in 2011. So I would, yeah, I think that a lot of this too. I go back to this all the time. When it is when it's a single parent household, and this even goes the other way. If it's a single parent household and it's a dad is manning the ship, it's almost like bumper bowling without one of the bumpers.
Right. Yeah.
You can only, as one person, do so much and handle so much. It's really hard. I mean, it's just on its face, it's very difficult. So when you have a kid who needs so much,
Well,
kids need stuff. I mean, you have to. I don't know if you knew this, but you have to feed them and clean them, and you got to talk to them. It's a
oh, yeah.
thing.
No,
Yeah.
it's a job.
So when you're a single parent and you're doing all that stuff yourself, I mean, like, things can fall through the cracks, and that's not indictment whatsoever on single parents. They're doing yeoman's work, but okay. Let's see.
But just if
Yeah,
I can kinda pick
go
up
ahead,
on that, I
please.
think single parents, like, should be applauded. You listen, you do the best you can, and I
Yeah,
think
sure.
that, that's important to recognize and to honor and to
Mhm.
celebrate that we're all trying to get through this life, right? We're all
That's
trying
it,
to
of
do the best
course.
we can from where we are.
Yeah,
And that applies also to children and adolescents who have experienced
sure.
something relationally traumatic,
Mhm.
loss, and to their family. And all of those factors go into truly understanding kind of what happened
Right.
instead of, with curiosity, with curiosity and patience instead of like that judgment, right? Like,
Yeah.
wrong, why can't you do like, no, well, let's look at what happened because what happened matters.
Yeah. 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 That's an interesting point. It's also, I mean, 2 parent homes.
Yeah.
We're just trying to get by as well. It's funny because there's so much disconnect now, and again, one of my main goals for the show, and I beat it like a drum. I don't ever want to sound precious, but what I say may sound a little precious, so forgive me. But it's like everybody is doing the same thing. Why can't we just give each other a goddamn break once in a while? But like within within a realm, I think most people, but for absolutely batshit crazy people, are trying to do the same thing, right? You do something you feel interested in. You take care of your kids. You come home. You try to enjoy your weekends. Whatever. We're all doing the same. We're all paddling upstream in the same shitstorm.
Mhm.
Okay. Can we just give each other a little bit of a break once in a while,
Mhm.
please? For the love
Absolutely.
of Christ. So anyway, I get off my precious pulpit now.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Let's go. Next.
Put that on my tombstone. That whole thing. Um, so if you can sort of dig in the past a little bit and go specifically to a case where you did have a fatherless home, what were some pinpointed behavioral uh, uh, things that you saw? Um, how was what was the acting out like? Or I don't. h- I'm asking
I
the
think
question very poorly, but
yeah, yeah, yeah. Let me help you out. So,
okay,
let
please. Yes, please do.
me
That's
give
what
you
you're
some
here for.
direction here.
All right.
No, I don't think it was a matter of you asking a question poorly. I think that you're trying to really figure out what it is you're seeking to understand.
Yeah,
And sometimes thinking out loud in the
sure.
moment, which is good. But if I could put the pieces together,
Please try.
um, perhaps, or kind of find a starting point, you know, you want to know how does this impact
Mhm.
kids and in what domains? Let's
Right.
start there, right? I think it's common knowledge, when you lose a parent, when you lose a caregiver, an attachment figure that creates a sense of relational security,
Mhm.
right? That's a traumatic loss, and it can, and again, not a one size fits all approach,
Sure.
right? But in general, I think the research supports. Actually, I know the research supports. you know, kids can be impacted, children can be impacted in many domains: academically, socially,
Mhm.
behaviorally, psychologically, right? Mentally, emotionally, in a variety of ways. I think the degree to which kids manifest perhaps, behaviors that linger longer, where they're impacted
Yeah.
beyond like that initial, sort of grief response varies. But I think every area of our functioning has the potential to be impacted, right?
Right.
Our availability for learning, our availability for redirection, our, just our general mood, our ability to
Yeah.
engage, our ability to unlock, sort of our thinking brain
Right.
and unlock, like, kind of a lot of times we get stuck in our emotional brain. And so
Mhm.
it's like, how do we get to our thinking brain? If you're really caught up in a certain experience, and I'm talking very non-clinically here, just as a person,
Yeah. Yeah.
who happens to have a lot of knowledge,
Yeah.
because I think it's just important for listeners to know, we all respond to loss in a way that we respond to it.
Yeah.
Kids, children, adolescents, adults, communicate through behavior,
Right.
right? And so one of the key takeaways I hope you, get from this and your listeners, and I firmly believe this, is that behavior is a form of communication.
Yeah.
And we have to see it as such. Because when you don't have the words, you likely have the movements.
Right.
Right? Energy comes out in a different form. And if we see behavior, whether it's academic disengagement, failing grades, poor
Mhm.
attendance, um, any of the myriad of externalized expressions, right,
Yeah.
that we would be concerned about, whatever that is,
Yeah.
um, is really telling us something, is telling a
Yeah.
story. And so I think as listeners, right, what are we listening for?
Yeah.
And if you listen to understand, not to judge or react or to
Yeah.
rush to solve for, right? If we wait just long enough, we might learn something that can help us reach said child,
Hmm. Right.
right? And so that's the biggest piece, right? Like I said, just to recap it, yes, you're impacted by loss. It's a matter of, well, who's there to respond to it?
That's a great point. How the people that are supporting those kids, whether it be the single mom, whether it be the single mom and, her support system, grandma's in the house, aunts, uncles, whatever. What are they looking out for? What are the behavioral red flags obviously are there. What can they do to jump in and maybe mitigate that a bit?
The first, the most important thing they can do is be with their kid.
Yeah.
Presence.
Yeah.
Presence is
Yeah.
presence, right? If you sit long enough with someone, you start to learn about them. If you allow for proximity support, right? Physical kind of nearness, that matters, right? If you're consistent, if you're reliable, the idea is that you kind of meet said child like where they are, and you might not have all the answers as a parent. In fact, you won't.
Yeah.
We don't. We don't, um,
Yeah.
but if you actually just commit
Mhm.
to creating a space through you and with you and alongside you as a parent, if you can, right? Sometimes life doesn't afford, you know, that opportunity because life is
Yeah.
stressful and hard, and we're trying to juggle a lot of things, and there are so many interferences. There's no shortage of them, especially
Mhm.
now in this age, right?
Right.
The technology age. But if you get back to the basics of just being with your child,
Mhm.
you start to learn their like the cadence of how they express themselves, or
Yeah.
what's maybe out of the realm of normal behavior or worthy of a discussion. The bottom line is that you're still there and you
Yeah.
continue to be there, and you create support by being with, you know,
Yeah.
someone, being that constant, especially if constancy, right, was jeopardized through loss.
Sure.
You double down on that. You double down on your commitment to your why and what
Yeah.
really matters. And you do the best you can and rally the support you can in whatever way you can. Um, to just be there first and then see what happens. There's no
Yeah.
prescription, right? There's no like, do these 4 things and
Right.
no, we're human beings. We're all
Yeah.
unique. There's a lot of similarities and sameness in beautiful ways, but we're all unique to our circumstances.
Right. And what would you say to somebody who was fearful of overstepping or reticent of diving in to help that kid out?
That's an excellent question. Because I think a lot of people are, right? You sidestep a lot of these things because they're awkward. What do I say? Are they gonna bring it up? Are they gonna do you think a child's not thinking about it in their head? Why not pull up a chair and join them?
Yeah.
Or how about this? Don't worry so much about the outcome, worry about
Mhm.
the process. And it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be anything, clinical. It just has to be an expression of care.
Mhm.
I see you.
Yeah.
You matter to me. I'm here. Do you wanna do this? Things aren't as complicated as we, as adults especially, make them,
Yeah.
out to be. But what's the risk? I always look at it like risk benefit, right? Well, what's the risk of not taking that chance of being uncomfortable? And quite frankly, you're gonna be worried about being uncomfortable. This child is going through a traumatic experience. As an adult, we're stewards. We can help them through it by showing them you can have really big feelings and emotions to a very, natural experience in a way, and show
Yeah.
them that there is no feeling too big, even if it's scary for us. Um, that's something we can step into. And I think it does vary, and again, our questions are general, our conversation is general, but, like,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, not everyone's gonna be able to do that, nor should they. But the people that matter, or if you're asking that question, you're talking about people that are in that child or adolescent's life,
Mhm.
right? That
Yeah.
they
Sure.
interact with.
Sure. Yeah, and I think even the simple gestures can go a long way if even if you're I'm not saying to get too involved, but if you're a neighbor and Charlie down the block's old man just died or something like that. I don't know. Just wave to Charlie and not in a weird way. No, it's not.
No, but
That's
but
not.
but you're talking about community. You're
That's
talking
it. Right.
about, yeah, neighbors,
Yeah.
community. You're talking about rallying around someone who needs support, and support
Yeah.
is not a bad word. Support
No, it's
is
not.
what we do as humans.
But we've lost so much of that despite the ultra connectivity of nowadays with
Mhm.
all of this, which is serves a great purpose in many ways, technology, and this we're doing
Yeah.
this remotely, obviously, but we've lost a lot of that community thing where people Sebastian's got a great bit, right? An old Sebastian bit when the bell rings, you dive behind the couch.
Yeah.
So it's there's that thing. Back in the
Mhm.
day, you take out the Sanka. I'm quoting a 15-year-old Sebastian Maniscalco bit. Still holds up. But, you had that coffee and, as my mom used to say, you had that coffee and like a cake and 10 minutes cake. Um,
And here's
well,
the thing, not to I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
no, please
You
go.
bring up a point, like, and again, my disclaimer is, like, let's use some good judgment here. I'm not you don't wanna
Yeah.
interfere with opinions or judgments.
Oh, no.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's really about noticing and
Mhm.
acting with compassion,
Mhm.
right? Just
Yeah.
being a compassionate person
Yeah.
and seeing a child and, connecting. That's it. In your own way. In your own
Sure.
way, letting them know they're a part of a community and they went through
Yeah.
something or they're going through something. And here's the thing, being fatherless doesn't mean that person is necessarily gone physically, right?
Right, right.
Because a lot of, being father that's an interesting
Yeah.
concept because there's so many different ways that we experience
Sure.
loss.
Mhm. Yeah, it could be the absence. So we talk about that a lot. It's an absence. It's even someone who's
Yeah.
he's around, but he's not available emotionally or just doesn't get
Yeah.
it. Sometimes you draw a shithead, right?
Sometimes
It
you do.
happens.
Yeah.
And the antithesis of that, by the way, and I want to pay you another compliment because I just thought of it, is I going back to the thing about connectivity and leaning in a little bit, community. There's one thing, I think we share certain sensibilities and values,
Mhm.
and I think there's one thing we have a lot in common, which you do not have aloof an aloof bone in your body. You're not aloof, you're passionate. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I tried for about 3, 4 years to be aloof. It doesn't work for me. It just doesn't work. I can't. I mean, besides, I don't think these features could be aloof at all, but just physically.
Yep.
But I appreciate that about you, that there's passion there. You get in there, you dive in. I do the same thing, and it's too much. I think it's too much for people sometimes, and I think that's part of the new culture and zeitgeist where it aloof is sort of valued more than
Mhm.
I'm not dying on the sword. I'm just saying it's just an observation. Have you seen that as well a little bit, or am I?
In what context? Like, tell me more.
I don't know. People are afraid to put themselves out there in a passionate way. Not even passionate, just in a friendly way. Just in an old
Absolutely.
school.
Yeah.
You wave to someone and they're diving behind their car like, "Hey
Yeah,
man, I
no,
see
I
you."
think there are so many implications that we're
Yeah.
starting to see now, right? From when, I guess, social media and the iPhone,
Yeah.
kind of really came out but absolutely. I think
Yeah.
we socialize differently, and 100%,
Yeah.
things are different. And And again, I'm not suggesting, everyone getting everyone's business,
No, 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 me
like,
neither, believe me.
but
Yeah,
I'm saying,
yeah.
like, I think to your point and what I have found in my work with children, adolescents, and families, and even in my own life, right? It's
Mhm.
like, connections are really everything. Belonging
Yeah,
and, caring enough to see someone.
yeah. Yeah, that makes sense, and that's a great segue to building a house that smiles. Can you tell me a little bit about that initiative, your work with that, and
Yeah, and
all that good
so
stuff?
I can. Building a house that smiles was a model, when I left, my position at Ridgewood. I was employed, as a school social worker, a crisis intervention counselor, and ultimately as the district coordinator of school-based mental health. And I worked alongside an incredible team and, an incredible mentor, close friend, co co-leader, who unfortunately, I lost 2 years ago, and so, that really changed, you know, the smile of the house, right?
Yeah,
And I think this
yeah,
segues into, and I'm gonna be a little vulnerable here, like, the model that we had was really about an alternative to discipline,
mhm,
a relationally based approach to understand
yeah,
children in school,
yeah,
and to build connections with young people, to give them support and to just learn about them and to, be available to
yeah,
them as they grew, through school. But it was an alternative to discipline sort of model that just morphed into understanding the intrapsychic sort of world of kids and the life of children who've had
mhm,
various experiences that interfere with their ability to show up to school or to learn or to thrive, right? And it kind of we realized over what we were doing, right? Just kind of being there for a kid.
yeah,
Not on the surface, not to refer, but just to be with them, to understand them, to ask them questions, to use discipline as a way, right?
mhm,
Use these moments, that traditional discipline, it was like, it's like a hard line and you did something wrong. This was really like, oh wow, what an opportunity,
yeah,
right? It was more conscious. It was about using that as the vehicle for connection
mhm,
and the approach in which we worked, was really novel as well, and
yeah,
so we realized, like, building a house that smiles was about creating a space you wanted to go to, but that you felt good within,
right.
where if you could envision it, like, all the lights were on, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah,
walls
yeah,
were bright, like
sure,
and so we know what it's like when things aren't working and a house doesn't smile,
yeah,
and, it's really about building culture across departments, disciplines,
mhm,
working together, right, for the sake of meeting kids where they are because that's what kids need.
sure. Wow, and that house smells like chocolate chip cookies,
Yeah.
and there's a Vince Vaughn movie on the TV.
Yes, absolutely. But here's the thing, like, the approach applies to everything. It's like, what's your attitude for the practice? What's
Sure,
your attitude for life? How
yeah,
do you approach a situation? How do you, create an energy in your house, right?
mhm,
That makes people feel like they wanna be there
yeah,
and use it as that secure base, right, from which you can explore the world. No, I think it's a matter of, like, really important things, models, movements, right? Philosophies. It takes a lot of intention, it takes a lot
yeah,
of hard work, and it takes a lot of time. Nothing happens overnight.
yeah,
I think we build something over time, and it really was about a mindset and a mission. How do we
yeah,
understand our work? Even as different people with different approaches
right,
and different styles. You know, how do we want to approach mental health
yeah,
in schools? How do we wanna help kids understand themselves, get through life's challenging moments? Like, you know, um, it unfortunately, loss is a real part of life.
yeah,
Abandonment, whether in
sure,
various ways, right? And kids are at a crucial point in their lives,
yeah,
when that happens, and it can really change them, right? And I think
yeah,
it's a lifelong I think you spoke to this, like, it's a lifelong part of their story.
Yeah.
And so it's like, what characters do we wanna play, though, in that story,
Yeah.
right? How do
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
want them to remember us and what they did, right? Even if it's one interaction. How many times can you reflect in your own life after having gone through what you went through? Like, hey, I remember that person. You don't even know them well. You probably couldn't even tell me their last name. Or maybe
Right.
you did have a first grade teacher or a freshman coach, whatever it is that you're like, wow, you know what? They saw me. They really liked me. I loved being in their presence. They made me feel safe. Or they were
Yeah.
interested in what I was doing. Or they knew when I should have been doing something and they told me. They,
Sure.
they, they had an investment in you as a person.
Yeah.
And it was about connecting, right? Um, versus like a telling or a power up.
Sure.
It was a power with situation,
Yeah.
and I bet you don't forget that. I mean, think about the messages you receive as a
Yeah.
child, right? It's so hard, and I think I wrote about this in my dissertation. It's so hard to forget the messages that you hear when you're young. It is
Yeah.
damn near impossible to forget those that have changed your life.
I've definitely shined that spotlight on those small periods or moments of recognition with, you're right, people that I don't even remember their last names, but those interactions and those moments of recognition meant so much to me because
Mhm.
of the situation or whatever it was. So speaking of, and just to, I don't want to keep you all night. I would, but I'm not going to.
I thought this was just the warm up. Come on, I didn't even get
This is just the
started.
warm up. This is
I
just
didn't
the
even
this
get
is the
started. Come on.
this is the these are the hors d'oeuvres. Uh, do you have this is a little thing we like to do called "My Old Man Used to Say"? So maybe your father or just a piece of wisdom you could share from wherever, any realm.
From my dad? You should beware your wish for.
That'll be our next show.
Yeah, no, please. I mean, that's a whole sitcom. But, I love that question. I wanna think about that a little bit, because there's so much I could say. I wouldn't say it's about wisdom, but I'll tell you, he was a very funny guy. Um, and then that's kind of really what I remember,
Yeah,
amidst a lot of things.
sure.
Um, but, you know, I remember a lot of really, really, really funny comments and things that he would say. But in terms of wisdom, I'm not entirely sure he had much wisdom, but, you know, I think what I remember most, I mean, because a lot of the things that I would say, I can't say on this. It's recorded. It's going to be publicized. I have a job. I don't,
Sure.
I can't reveal
I
too much.
understand.
Um, but I think I can't remember the saying as much as I remember sort of the feeling,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Um, and I think in terms of the feeling, it was about really a zest for life, like having fun and being funny is
yeah,
an antidote for so much, an appreciation for life in a way. Cinema, movies, stories, engagement, honestly, connection
yeah.
and engagement. And I'm using my, if, as, I was going to sit on my hands because I'm Italian. I mean, I'm so animated, I have to, you know, um, but it's like using your hand and kind of engaging. So I don't even have a word of wisdom like my father used to say. He used to say the F word a lot. I mean, like, you know what I mean?
Good,
I
we'll
mean,
cut it right there.
if you want me to be really honest, as a
God
therapist in
damn,
the therapist,
that's good.
chair, yeah, he said the F word a lot. I can't say that, I don't wanna drop that.
Yeah,
Um,
we'll cut right the F word, but no, that's okay. Oh,
I got 2 words for you, and it's not Merry Christmas, was
is
his
that
famous line.
that's hysterical.
But with that said, the wisdom, I think he always encouraged, especially being an immigrant and not having access to education, and having a really interesting story and family story, like, just to be serious, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, e I always felt encouraged to be educated and get educated. And I think that's something you don't lose when you hear that message, especially from someone whose family immigrated to the country and,
Sure.
didn't have access to the things I fortunately did.
Well, hell, you ran with it because education is, I tried to use the bathroom at one of the 3 schools you went to, and they said, "Nah, you get out of here. No, we're not
Yeah.
taking visitors today." So,
But, I mean, I'm
you should be
sure
very
listen,
proud.
but here's the thing, if I can say something, 'cause I thank you for the compliment, and I really
Sure.
sincerely appreciate that, and I have worked very hard, and I know all that.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, young people, especially today, right? Because the world has changed and the competition in school and this, like, you know, it's so overwhelming. But it's okay to, like, find yourself in your time,
Yeah.
in the time it takes you to become who you are.
Yeah.
You just have to believe you'll arrive, and when you're
Yeah.
ready and that switch goes off, anything can happen. You can be anywhere. They might even let you sit in a class, right? You know what I mean? But my point is, like, you can't nothing in life, whether you experience loss, whether you don't have that father, that guidepost, that person, that significant
Yeah.
person in your family, and, it doesn't mean it's, like, prescriptive. It doesn't mean it's predictive of anything.
Yeah.
Right? You still
Yeah.
have the freedom to write your story. It's just you have a
Sure.
story to write and a story to tell. And that's the biggest, I think, piece because it's so easy to be kinda discouraged.
Yeah.
And I think kids, young people, adults, all of us, cradle to the grave, right? We all have our own story to tell. And, you know, especially as we talk about children, young boys, right, who truly need guidance
Yeah.
and positive, healthy male role models, right, who show up for them, who show them, who guide them. Um, it's so critical, but it means your story is beginning, and it's
Yeah.
like you can do what you are destined to do, even if you take a detour, even if it takes
Yeah.
a little while to figure out what the map looks like. Just
That's great.
that one. And in your
Yeah.
time, use that to assign meaning to what happened. Use it to
Sure.
assign meaning to who you are, right? Now,
Yeah.
that's really hard to do when you're young. That's why the people around you matter
Yeah.
until your brain comes online, right? Until you're kind
Sure.
of matured you have matured in a way rather that, you're starting to think differently, right?
Yeah.
Developmentally, you can hear things, you can plan, you can sequence, you can understand. That's why the people around you, especially in the
Sure.
early years, are the protective factors that matter, you know, to kind of getting you on that pathway to your future in a way, that you thrive.
Yeah. Yeah, when that frontal lobe firms up, it's like,
Right, until then.
until then, because
Yeah,
before that, it's a problem. But no, that's very, very, very great advice. And thank you so much for coming
my pleasure.
on the show. Fantastic, really interesting. I think there's so much there that I, I I'm sort of overwhelmed. I'm looking forward to no, really, I'm looking forward to listening back to it and sort of pulling some great stuff out. So thank you, Dr. Lauren DePinto, and I hope you'll be back. I really do. That was great.
I thank you. I expect to be back.
Okay, good. There we go.
No, it would be my
It's
absolute
official.
pleasure. I'm so
Well, we have
grateful.
more to talk about. I think we have more to talk about. I think you have a lot more value to offer to the people, to the 6.5 people who are listening right now, including family members and friends. Thanks, guys. But okay, this was the Fatherless Cheat Sheet. Listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. You know all the places, the YouTubes, the Spotifys, the Apples of it all. Email us, fatherlesscheatsheetpodcast@gmail.com. DM me, all that good stuff. And more fun to come. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you, Dr. Lauren. This was great.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Really great. Thank you so much. All right.
Having me.
Bye, guys. Thank you.